In our daily lives, every event can be interpreted into different meanings depending on who views it. It is not the event itself, but the meaning we attach to it that will affect the quality of our lives. When something happens to us, we see it and we hear it through our filters, then immediately attach a meaning to it. On the surface, this process seems quite automatic. In fact, it only seems automatic because we have been well trained or conditioned to behave in this pattern throughout our lives. If we analyze it, we can actually separate the process to be observation and evaluation. Now, definition of observation: the action or process of closely observing or monitoring something or someone. As an example, she was brought into hospital for observation. Or the ability to notice things, especially significant details. As an example, his powers of observation. And number two, a statement based on something one has seen, heard, or noticed. As an example, he made a telling observation about Huey. Definition of evaluation: the making of a judgment about the amount, number, or value of something, an assessment. As you can see, an observation is what we experience directly with our senses, what we hear, smell, touch, and taste. An observation contains just the facts. The act of evaluating engages our mind and interprets what we are observing, and it produces a judgment. Observation is objective, evaluation is subjective. For most of us, it is difficult to make observations, especially of people and their behavior, that are free of judgment, criticism, or other forms of analysis. Krishnamurti once remarked that observing without evaluating is the highest form of human intelligence. The effect of mixing evaluation with observation is that we are projecting our judgments onto others. This will only trigger the defensiveness and resistance in the person we are talking to. It will reduce the likelihood that others will hear our intended message. They only hear the criticism in our comment and they shut down easily. Communication will be more effective if we separate evaluation from observation. We truly state whatever we see, hear, or notice without adding judgmental words. When we use factual comments, observations, instead of opinionated comments, evaluations, it is hard for the other side to disagree or behave defensively. When we observe without evaluation, we open ourselves to the other person's experience. It opens us to questioning, wondering about what is alive in the other person, instead of assuming that we know. Evaluation versus observation. My boss is procrastinating around this decision, versus my boss told us she would announce the decision by last week, but we still haven't heard. He eats like a slob, versus his table manners are different from mine. She is a know-it-all, versus she frequently shares her opinions, ideas, and beliefs. Evaluations versus observations. He's a lazy drunk, versus he lives his life differently from me and he drank 6 bottles of beer. Susan is the most generous, kind, and loving person I know, versus Susan frequently gives gifts and spends her time volunteering in various charities. evaluation versus observation. John is such a pain, he's always bossing me around, versus John frequently tells me what I should do. And finally, he seldom agrees with me, versus the last 3 times I said something, he said the exact opposite. If we want to separate observation from evaluation, we need to make observations that are specific in terms of time and context. One common pitfall in stating an observation is to use the following words: never, always, excessively, too much, all the time, and a lot. These words invite a debate instead of a connection. A clear observation establishes a common ground. It helps us remain open to clarification and serves to keep the doors to communication and connection wide open. To become more aware of observations and evaluations, practice the following. As you go about your day-to-day activities at work or at home, become aware of your language. Are you observing or are you evaluating? In your conversations, pay close attention to how and when you observe and how and when you evaluate. And finally, think about someone who is difficult or challenging for you and of someone with whom you get along very well. What is your observation of these people? What is your evaluation of them? These are the times when being able to distinguish between observations and evaluations is most helpful for staying self-connected and in both building and rebuilding a connection with another. It takes practice to not respond out of habit. So next time you are triggered, do the following observation practice. Number 1, stop. Number 2, breathe. Number 3, notice. What are you telling yourself? What stories are you believing about yourself or the other person? Write them down so you can see them outside of your head. And number 4, what actually happened? Write it down and try not to use any evaluations, interpretations, or judgments. Write down simply what happened, as if you were capturing it with a video camera and what video camera would capture. Observation: she is wearing something I would not wear. Evaluation: she looks bad in that outfit. Observation: he does that differently than I do it. Evaluation: he does that wrong. Observation: this is difficult for me. Evaluation: I am bad at this. We all compare, often without realizing it. And when we compare, we are making a judgment. We are evaluating ourselves, we are evaluating others, and we are evaluating ourselves compared to others. This evaluation leads to despair and self-doubt, or self-criticism and self-loathing. Instead, we can train our brain and our eyes to see our world as an observer. Judgment and observation are different behaviors with identifiable distinctions. Understanding the subtlety between these two forms of assessment can shift our well-being from despair to joy. When we meet another person, our brain automatically scans and assesses: what do I see? What do I feel? Can I find similarities? Am I intrigued or am I repelled? However, when the assessment begins to sound like an evaluation, are they smarter than me? Are they more prestigious than me? We have moved from observation to judgment. The emotional tone of observation is neutral. You scan a situation and simply notice what your direct experience is telling you without creating a story behind it or searching for meaning behind it. Observation: I see, I report, I see, I make a decision. Judgment: I see, I evaluate, I see, I compare. The human ability to hold a standard in our mind as who we aspire to be is incredibly adaptive. We evolved as a species because of our ability to make observations and express what we see through language. Yet, how we see observation or judgment and how we internalize the language objectively or with polarity has an enormous impact on our well-being. You see, I am simply the observer and not what I have observed, or even worse, my judgment of what I have observed.